Canada gave hockey to the world, yet the sport's brightest modern stars keep choosing US sweaters. Imagine Connor McDavid hoisting the cup in sunrise heat instead of snow-dusted Edmonton, or the Maple Leafs' next marquee free agent ghosting Toronto for tax-free Tampa. Sounds absurd until you run the numbers, tally the headlines, and hear the players themselves. Tonight we'll peel back 3 uncomfortable truths: the crushing spotlight that can turn an entire city against a single skater, the multi-million-dollar tax gap that no pre-game speech can erase, and the sunshine-powered dynasty that proves climate really does win championships. Stick around to the end, because we'll answer the question everyone north of the 49th parallel is whispering: can Canadian teams fix this before the country's 3-decade Stanley Cup drought becomes permanent? For generations, every Canadian driveway held 2 nets, a pile of snow for goalposts, and a kid dreaming of Saturday night glory under CBC spotlights. Montreal owned the 50s through the 70s. Edmonton turned the 80s into an oil rush. Then, like a sudden melting pond, the winds evaporated. No Canadian club has kissed the cup since 1993, and 7 of the last 10 finalists have skated out of states where the government no longer asks for a cut of their paycheck. The shift isn't anecdotal, it's gravitational. Canadian franchises still draft brilliantly and spend to the cap, but when those prospects hit their prime, the pull of sunnier ice grows stronger. Some fans blame bad management or rotten luck, yet the pattern is too consistent to file under coincidence. So what subterranean forces are reshaping hockey's geography? The trail starts not on the balance sheet, but on the front page. Step off the team bus in Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver, and you're immediately a household name. Post-game media scrums swell to football-sized crowds. Radio shows dissect zone exits the way political pundits parse polling data. Ryan Reeves, hardly a franchise cornerstone, admitted that when things spiraled in Toronto, the whole city wanted me out. One rough October, and grocery checkout lines morph into live forums on your Corsi score. The omnipresent smartphone turns every fan into a paparazzo. A stumble on a downtown sidewalk can dominate talk radio for days. Across the border, unless you're a face of the league superstar, you might squeeze in a coffee run unnoticed. That anonymity isn't just comfort, it's performance fuel. Players talk about sleeping better on the road than at home, because road games mean American media silence. And when veterans advise rookies to block out the noise, they really mean leave the noise entirely. But cameras aren't the only pressure point. The next one hits where it hurts most: the wallet. Picture 2 identical $8 million contracts. One is offered by Tampa, the other by Toronto. After the CRA and Queen's Park combine forces, the Leaf nets barely $3.7 million. The Bolt keeps well over $5 million and never once fills out a provincial return. Ontario's top combined rate now crests above 53%. Florida, Texas, Nevada, Tennessee, and Washington charge nothing at the state level. Over a 7-year deal, that gap can eclipse $10 million US, enough to buy a lakeside cottage or a second Lamborghini. Agents do the arithmetic on day 1 of negotiations. Players keep their own spreadsheets. League brass dismiss the disparity as marginal, but economists tracking playoff trends call it the Great Divergence. Money talks, even in a salary cap league. Yet a healthy bank account loses its shine if you spend January digging your car out of a snowbank while your peers sip post-practice espresso on a patio. Climate whispers, and players listen. Hockey may be played indoors, but life outside the rink still matters. Los Angeles offers surf breaks between morning skate and video review. Dallas players golf 12 months a year. Vegas skaters hike Red Rock Canyon in February. Sports psychologists note lower rates of seasonal depression, better vitamin D levels, and more family time outdoors. Kids ride bikes instead of braving icy bus stops. Spouses network in booming warm weather economies. That equilibrium shows up on the ice. Well-rested bodies, lighter minds, longer careers. Carolina's newest acquisition, Nikolai Ehlers, openly cited quality of life as a deciding factor when he walked from Winnipeg's snowfall to Raleigh's mild spring. Weather alone won't sell a superstar, but add it to softer media glare and fatter paychecks, and it tilts the scales. Still, one more layer seals the deal: privacy. Canadian supporters wear their hearts on their sleeves, and sometimes their anger on your driveway. A routine elementary school drop-off can become an autograph session, or worse, a debate about last night's turnover. Partners scrolling social media meet avalanches of vitriol. Kids catch chirps on the playground for their parents' plus-minus. Johnny Gaudreau hinted at these personal pressures after bolting Calgary. The outside noise never really switched off. Even Wayne Gretzky, Mr. Canada himself, once confessed the country's intensity can turn suffocating when results sour. Players don't list privacy under contract clauses, yet it silently shapes decisions. One veteran described signing in Nashville as buying anonymity. When you can eat dinner without a selfie flash, the idea of staying becomes addictive. Personal life secured, some stars make the ultimate leap, out of the spotlight and into American warm weather havens. Calgary felt the first tremor in 2022, when Johnny Gaudreau spurned a richer Flames offer to join low-key Columbus. Hours later, Matthew Tkachuk forced a blockbuster trade to Florida, lured by palm trees, zero state tax, and the chance to become the face of a rising Sunbelt juggernaut. Flames fans argued it was coincidence. 2 postseasons later, Tkachuk was lifting back-to-back cups, while Calgary missed May hockey. In Winnipeg, the 2025 offseason opened with Nikolai Ehlers politely declining a decade of Prairie loyalty for Carolina's Coastal Calm and a 6-year, $51 million deal. Even Toronto, center of the hockey universe, watched Mitch Marner request a sign and trade after a barrage of public scorn. Patterns emerge. Smaller U.S. markets promise breathing space, lower taxes, and longer summer golf seasons. Legacy, once Canada's trump card, suddenly sounds like a nostalgic sales pitch. Meanwhile, the teams those players join keep winning. The Florida Panthers marched to the Stanley Cup final in 2023 and 2024, then finally seized the Grail in 2025, extending Canada's drought and inflaming the tax advantage debate. 5 of the last 6 champions hail from no-tax states. Analysts calculated that the Leafs roster surrenders roughly $19 million more in annual taxes than Florida's, a virtual second-line center eaten by the revenue agency. Competitive parity baked into the cap starts to look like a myth. Opponents argue Detroit and Chicago won in high-tax markets last decade, and they're right, but the pendulum now swings south. Stars win rings, rings entice more free agents, and the cycle compounds. If Canada wants back in, something has to give. Ideas flutter around boardrooms. A tax equalization credit that lets high-tax teams spend extra cap dollars. Provincial tax breaks pegged to player salaries. League-funded mental health programs to ease media stress. Even an NHL-backed PR campaign to humanize players' families. Yet each fix faces political, financial, or union roadblocks. Federal incentives risk public uproar in a country already debating healthcare funding. Owners in low-tax states lobby against cap tweaks. And some economists insist lifestyle will always weigh heavier than any rebate. As US GDP surges and Canadian media fragmentation deepens, the disparity threatens to widen. The question isn't whether Canada can host NHL franchises. Of course it can. The question is whether those franchises can still lure and keep the league's elite. Passion may pack arenas, but passion alone won't sign the contract. 3 forces, relentless scrutiny, relentless winter, and relentless taxation, have converged to create a silent migration of hockey excellence. Each factor alone is manageable. Together they form a headwind strong enough to steer careers. Yet the story isn't over. Fan culture can evolve, governments can innovate, and the lure of writing a new Canadian miracle can still sparkle brighter than South Beach sunsets. But time is ticking. Every July 1st that marquee names choose sunshine over snow adds another layer of ice to Canada's championship drought. So what's the fix? Cap relief, kinder coverage, or simply accepting a new world order? Drop your verdict in the comments. Smash that like button if you believe the cup will return north, and subscribe for our deep dive into the next big shift, possible franchise relocations. Because if history has taught us anything, it's this: hockey never stands still, even on the coldest Canadian night.